Welcome back to Secret Trails, the tragic story of Farkhunda Malikzada. On a seemingly ordinary spring day in Kabul, March 19, 2015, the bustling streets near the Shah-e-Dushamshira shrine would become the stage for an unthinkable act of violence that would leave the nation, and indeed the world, in shock and disbelief. Farkhunda, a 27-year-old woman with dreams and aspirations, had recently completed her religious studies. She was known for her devotion to Islam and her sharp mind. On that fateful day, she decided to visit the shrine, a place that should have been one of peace and reflection. Little did she know that this visit would be her last. As Farkhunda walked through the shrine, she noticed something that troubled her deeply: a mullah selling amulets and charms to visitors. Being well-versed in Islamic teachings, she knew this practice went against the true principles of her faith. With courage in her heart, she approached the mullah, voicing her concerns about these superstitious practices. But her words of wisdom fell on deaf ears. The mullah, threatened by her knowledge and assertiveness, lashed out with a terrible accusation. "She burned the Quran!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the shrine. In a matter of moments, those fateful words spread like wildfire through the crowd. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Eyes that had been indifferent moments ago now blazed with fury. Hands that had been occupied with prayer beads now clenched into fists. A mob, fueled by blind rage and misguided religious fervor, began to form around Farkhunda. What followed was a scene of unspeakable brutality. Farkhunda, petite and outnumbered, found herself at the center of a storm of violence. Fists rained down upon her, kicks struck her body, and objects were hurled at her with deadly force. Her pleas of innocence were drowned out by the roar of the mob. "I am a Muslim," she cried out, her voice breaking. "I did not burn the Quran." But her words fell on deaf ears. The violence escalated to horrifying levels. In a sickening turn of events, someone produced a car, and Farkhunda's battered body was tied to it. The vehicle lurched forward, dragging her through the streets of Kabul. The rough pavement tore at her flesh as onlookers watched in horror, or, worse still, joined in the frenzy. As if this wasn't enough, the final act of this tragedy was yet to come. The mob, not satisfied with the damage they had inflicted, decided to set Farkhunda on fire. Her body, barely clinging to life, was engulfed in flames before being callously tossed into the Kabul River. Throughout this entire ordeal, which lasted for hours, police officers stood by, overwhelmed or unwilling to intervene. Their inaction would later become another point of contention in the aftermath of this tragedy. As news of Farkhunda's death spread, the initial reaction was mixed. Some, still believing the false accusation, celebrated what they saw as justice for blasphemy. But as the truth emerged, horror and outrage took hold. Investigations revealed that Farkhunda had not burned a Quran. In fact, she had been protecting the sanctity of her religion by speaking out against un-Islamic practices. The revelation of her innocence sparked protests across Afghanistan. Women, in particular, took to the streets, demanding justice for Farkhunda and highlighting the broader issues of women's rights and mob violence in the country. In an unprecedented move, women carried Farkhunda's coffin during her funeral, a task traditionally reserved for men, symbolizing their solidarity and determination to fight for change. The legal proceedings that followed were a roller coaster of emotions for those seeking justice. Initially, several men were sentenced to death for their role in the murder. However, in a turn of events that outraged many, these sentences were later reduced or overturned on appeal. The case exposed deep flaws in the Afghan justice system and the ongoing struggle for women's rights in the country. Farkhunda's story, while tragic, became a catalyst for discussions about religious extremism, gender-based violence, and the power of false accusations in Afghan society. It forced many to confront uncomfortable truths about their community and the potential for ordinary people to commit extraordinary acts of cruelty when swept up in mob mentality. Today, Farkhunda Malikzada is remembered not just as a victim, but as a symbol of resistance and a call for change. Her name has become synonymous with the fight for women's rights and justice in Afghanistan. Murals bearing her image can be found in Kabul, ensuring that her story is not forgotten. Farkhunda's story serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked hatred. What do you think about this case? Comment down below and make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next Secret Trails.